Here we are. Hi.
Hi.
Hi!
Hi, Desert Bus. How's it going?
Yay! Hi.
Pretty good.
Grand Imahara! Yay!
So, I'm here in my shop, but they're filming right outside for something else. A friend of mine, they're filming a short, so I can't talk very loud, but I hope, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, awesome.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to call in. We really appreciate it. I'm pretty sure that everybody in our audience knows who you are, but in case somebody is just calling in from the moon, can you just quickly maybe give a rundown of who you are and maybe a cool new project that you have starting on December 9th?
Absolutely. My name is Grant Imahara, and I'm a former Mythbuster from the Discovery Channel series Mythbusters, where for 10 years we use science to prove or disprove urban legends. I am a veteran of industrial light and magic. I worked there for 10 years in the model shop doing special effects. I worked in R2-D2, the Energizer Bunny, and a number of other movies. And currently, I am working on a show called The White Rabbit Project, which is an Alice in Wonderland reference to going down the rabbit hole, essentially. It's a new series. It's a Netflix original. And it stars me and Carrie Byron and Tori Belleci. And it premieres on December 9th. There'll be 10 episodes.
Yay! Cool. So a lot of questions about White Rabbit Project. Basically, a lot of along the lines of tell us about it, like all of those things. Can you share any details from the show? Like what kind of stuff? You can?
As a matter of fact, I can.
Yay!
So basically, the show is a chance for Carrie, Tori, and I to take a topic, and every show has a different topic. For example, craziest weapons of World War II, or weirdest jailbreaks of all time. And so we each take one major story and one minor story, and go down the rabbit hole as far as we can with that. So, for example, I'm going to show you something here that's actually still in my shop. We had this episode about future technologies that we were promised. So, like flying cars and jetpacks and things like that. The name of the episode is Dude, Where's My Hoverboard? And so, originally, they wanted to have a hoverboard, right? And there's a couple hoaxes. I'm not talking about the one with wheels. I'm talking about one that actually hovers, like Back to the Future. So we had been talking to, there's only there's maybe 6 real ones in the world. We were talking to a guy in Canada, and that kind of fell through because he didn't really want to tell us how he did it, and we would have had to travel to him and the whole 9 yards. So the producers were like, well, do you think you're a smart guy, could you build a hoverboard? And so I thought about it. It only took me about 60 seconds to say, yes, I can build a hoverboard. So as a matter of fact, I did. It took 7 weeks, cost about $14,000.
Whoa!
And it uses 16 drone motors.
Oh.
These are carbon fiber props. They're 29 inches in diameter, and there are 16 of them. It uses lithium polymer batteries, and most of it is made out of carbon fiber and aluminum.
Wow.
So it is surprisingly not the most dangerous thing I've built or ridden. But it does work, and you will be able to see it on December 9th. See me flying it on December 9th.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's super, super scary to fly, though.
Yeah, could it maybe double as a battle bot if necessary?
It might, but it's incredibly lightweight and fragile. So here's the thing. So it is capable of carrying about 200 pounds. So potentially it could fly within the BattleBots arena and deploy some kind of 100-pound robot, which would be super cool. But it's really, really hard to fly because essentially you are standing on top of a drone that's turned upside down. Normally the drones have their payload underneath, and that kind of gives you, really good stability. But we're putting this in the worst possible situation. And essentially, in order to keep from crashing into walls or the crew or lights or anything like that, I have to use my own balance to fly it. So it's very exciting.
So our chat, there's several reactions to this.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, "Wow, that is not lickable." People are like, "The shredder, oh god!" But a lot of people desperately want it and are opening up themselves to offers. I have $1,700 on the table.
So I cut a deal with the producers of the show, and I said, "Look, I'll pay for half of this if you let me keep it."
Oh.
And generally speaking, it's not, we didn't really keep anything from Mythbusters. The production had all the stuff. And so I said, "Look, I want this thing." And they're like, "Are you going to make a business out of this?" I'm like, "No, hell no. I'm not crazy." Because, there are people who are legitimately trying to come out with, the hoverboard personal transport. And one of the guys that we saw had this this website, and he's like, "Okay, it's going to start at," I forget what it was, like 20 grand or something, and I'm just looking at this thing like, there's no way, considering the amount of money that just goes into all these parts, and not to mention that, this particular design, because I was using off-the-shelf parts, happens to have 16 fully exposed spinning carbon fiber propellers that are rotating at 1,000 RPM. So it's not the safest thing in the world. Let's just put it that way.
Is there some footage from the first Iron Man movie of you trying out to get it to fly?
Oh yeah. There's and I did, just in that movie, for reference, and I do this with a lot of my projects, is I videotape every trial, and I think I did 50 some odd tests of it before I got the final flight. But yeah, and during filming, my original design had only 8 motors, and it was calculated to be enough to just get me off the ground. But the reality of the situation is, just to get off the ground, you need maybe an extra 20 to 50% more thrust. So that failed. And they filmed the whole thing. And then I went back and doubled the number of motors. And the first flight of me, and I was, instead of standing upright, I decided to crouch down like a motorcycle, like a cafe racer. And the first flight of that, I'll have to post it sometime in the future, I screamed because I could not believe, it's like, and there was so much thrust that it just shot me up towards the ceiling, and I immediately shut it down and crashed. But and that's the thing about this particular technology. If you have enough thrust to get off the ground, there's no height restriction, because it would literally fly me into the ceiling if I wasn't riding the throttle.
Wow.
So yeah.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. It's terrifying and cool.
Sounds like good TV though.
Well, Chad
Yeah,
says...
I think it's going to be pretty good.
So that's on Netflix on December 9th, if you're interested.
Yep.
And I don't see how you
Yeah.
can be interested after hearing that.
Yeah.
So another question from chat is, Could you tell us about like a big oops moment you had during a build, either for a White Rabbit project or maybe something you did on Mythbusters?
Yeah, let's see. White Rabbit. What else was I built? So for the show, I also built a jousting machine.
None of this sounds safe at all.
No, they like that. That's where we live. Is right between, right just past the line of safe, and into the world of amazing. And that's where they like us to be at all times. So, and I built a freeze ray as well. The
What?
freeze ray didn't. I had. Well, I won't spoil it for you, but I had a couple funny trials with that. I will say, for the oops moment, on White Rabbit there wasn't much, but certainly on Mythbusters there was one involving a projectile which made an unscheduled exit from the firing range. And
Oh, I think I know the story.
I actually can't say much about it, but what I can say is that there were safety measures in place, and this thing sailed past our safety measures, and instead of burying itself into the side of a mountain as was intended, it actually used the mountain as a ramp.
Oh no!
And the path that the cannonball took was so unlikely, and this is the honest truth, it was so unlikely that if it hadn't actually happened to us, we would probably be doing it as a myth on our show. And it was not like a straight path, into one object. It was multiple objects bouncing across, skipping across a street. It's insane. So, fortunately, no one was hurt in that event, and it could have been much, much worse. So, within 24 hours, that particular shot had been heard. We were getting reports from London and all around the world. So it was that was a scary time, but the thing that makes it okay is that nobody got injured.
Whoa!
And given the path of devastation, there was actually fairly minimal property damage.
Minimal property damage.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
no property damage.
Minimal. So, yeah.
Holy. That's a very exciting time. Actually, here's somebody in chat a lot of people in chat were like, holy moly. And somebody in chat was like, how do I get this man's job? But I did have a couple questions about how you mentored high school robotics and stuff like that. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into your job and what you do with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was working in Industrial Light and Magic in the model shop, I, at that time, had been competing in BattleBots in the 1999 version, the original one. And we had a community outreach manager who was working with the local schools to try and develop ties to the community. And a request came across her desk from a public school in Richmond, California, in Northern California. And Richmond is an inner city school. They don't have a lot of resources. And if you've ever seen the movie Coach Carter, that is that school. That's that very school, Richmond High School. So the request came across and was like, well, do you have any time to go and just consult on this part of the program? It's called FIRST. It's for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. It's an international high school program where the students make robots that compete to do these various tasks. And as part of that, they encourage going out to the to corporations and pairing with them to get mentors. So they sent a request to ILM and they said, I don't know, maybe an hour a week. It's a 6-week program. So I'm like, okay, sure, easy. I show up and there's one teacher, and there's 6 kids, and it turns out the school wants nothing to do with it. You know, it's like these kids really want to do it. They have one, it wasn't even a teacher, it was like an administrator. You have one administrator, and they're like, you know, we really, really want to do this, and the kids are super motivated. Can you help us? And so 1 hour turns into 2 hours, turns into there every night until midnight, and weekends. And 6 weeks later, we had this robot with this exceptional team of students. And we went to competition. We went to Silicon Valley Regional. And they got a judge's award for being, you know, this really, again, a school with limited resources, but what they made up for in their lack of resources, they had this incredible drive, this incredible motivation. So they got an award. And I remember right after that, the principal of the school called me into her office. And, you know, I go through, because normally their build area is like just one of the outlying buildings. And they had to borrow a classroom. There's no like, you know, every day we had to, hang on one second. Still there?
Yep.
Every day we had to clean up after our mess so that they could, you know, the English teacher could have her classroom back. But principal calls me to her office. I actually go into the school, which has metal detectors. You know, I go through a metal detector and I'm waiting for the principal. And I sit down in her office and she's like, you know what? Whenever Richmond High School is in the news, it's always about violence or some other thing, or, you know, drugs or something bad. The only time in the last year that Richmond High School has been in the news and it wasn't something bad was your little robot team. And so she just wanted to say thank you. And I was like, oh, well, you know, it really wasn't me. I mean, I helped out a lot, but it was the students. And she's like, okay, great. So what do you need?
Ooh.
And so from there, they got their own like build space and more resources. And the program's still going strong today. It's Team 841.
Wow.
Richmond High School.
I actually, when you mentioned first, our chat
So
lit up.
that's my story.
Our chat lit up. We have veterans of Team 114 and 1072 that I saw go by, and some.
But,
oh, sorry.
And as far as how I got to be a special effects animatronics engineer,
Yes.
that was all through friends. I was working at THX. Right out of college, I was working at THX, another division of Lucasfilm, and some friends of mine were working on Industrial Light and Magic, and they were like, "Yeah, we're working on Men in Black, Mars Attacks, and The Lost World all at the same time," and they needed some help, and so it was literally, "Hey, you're this guy that has these skills. We have a couple projects that need your help. Can you just take a break, a leave of absence?" And so I said, okay, sure. How long? And like, I don't know, 2 weeks. And so I went to my supervisors at THX and I said, hey, can I try this thing? I mean, what should I do? And they're like, yeah, go for it. My boss's boss, Monica Dashwood, was like, here's what I do. If I ever have the chance to do something cool and that chance may never come again, I do it. And so she's like, you should definitely do this. And so I took the 2-week leave of absence, and that became 9 years and more than a dozen movies.
Wow.
So there you go.
That's awesome. So, a lot.
All right, now hang on one second. I cannot hear you.
Ah. Can you hear us now?
No, can't hear
Nope.
you. Okay, I'm going to call you right back, okay?
Okay. Engineering, you got this. So,
So we got about 5 minutes left on that giveaway.
yeah, so I'll just talk about the giveaway. Thanks, Ben. That's a great thing to do. While we're getting that sorted out, I'm just gonna talk about the giveaway. We have an incredible Destiny Frontier Ghost. It's donated by Ben, and our friend Rodney got all of the signatures from the entire Destiny dev team. And Matt is just going to come and show that off. I'm not going to ask engineering to take us to the bone zone because they're busy. Oh, there he goes. They got it.
Okay.
Amazing. Oh, and Grant's
Carry on.
back. That's $7.78. Donate right now. Grant, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
That's awesome.
I can't see you.
That's okay. We're not as interesting as you are. I do want to say, though, when you mentioned first, our chat lit up. We have veterans. I couldn't catch them all going by, but Team 1103, 1072, 114, 4102. We got so many people who volunteer and just had their lives enhanced and influenced by FIRST, and even somebody who said that working in FIRST in high school led him to become a mechanical engineer. So you had so many people who were just so involved in that. And I thought that would be a nice, heartwarming thing for you.
Well, it's an awesome program. It really is.
Yay!
I mean, and just enabling young people like the kids at Richmond. As a matter of fact, one of the kids went on to become an electrical engineer. He was like, I want to follow in your footsteps. So that's great. He comes back and mentors, and it's kind of program that's self-sustaining, and it really does a good job of giving kids opportunities as well as making them realize that they are capable of so many great things.
Oh, that's so wonderful. To get on to like maybe a less sort of heartwarming and like awesome thing. Got us some questions about how you got involved with Star Trek Continues. Have you always been a Star Trek fan?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that something that you picked up
No.
later in life?
Oh no! I grew up watching reruns of Star Trek with my grandfather, and like summer vacation, we were watching Star Trek, and for a kid, I must have been about, I don't know, probably 8 or so, to see someone like me, an Asian American guy who wasn't a bad guy, a thug, a gangster, some martial arts guy, like for all intents and purposes, a regular guy who happens to be a hero, who is part of the senior staff, who drives the spaceship. I mean, that was tremendous. And so I was like, wow, that's cool that there are people like me on TV. So, my love of Star Trek goes all the way back. And I had met Vic Mignogna, who is the executive producer, the creator, and who also plays Captain Kirk in Star Trek Continues. I was at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and I was hosting the Masquerade, the big costume show, and he was one of the judges. And so we had met at that event. Several years later, we were at a mutual friend's party, and he had just started putting together Star Trek Continues. So he's like, hey, Grant, are you a Star Trek fan? I'm like, yeah, sure, love Star Trek. He goes, okay, cool. And he starts showing me pictures of this incredible bridge set. He's like, yeah, we're doing this little web series thing. We're taking the original series Star Trek, and just, continuing it as if they had finished out their 5-year mission. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And so, the drool coming down the side of my mouth, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, Vic? Hey, if you ever need anything, I'm a handy guy. I make props. I can help out. If you ever need anything, just give me a call. I said, yeah, sure. So two days later, he called me. He's like, hey, would you be my Sulu? And I'm like, yes. There's no hesitation there. And a couple months later, we were filming the vignettes, the very first things we filmed. And could not believe how awesome it was to go and go to this perfect replica bridge set, wearing my Sulu costume, speaking in my Sulu voice, saying, "Phasers locked, Captain," things like that. It was just like the most awesome geekgasm summer camp that you can imagine. So it's been a really great experience because so many people love what we're doing, and the level of the sets and costumes and the cinematography and the sound, everything is great. And we have Chris Doohan, who is Scotty, the original Scotty, Jimmy Doohan's son. And it's such a great experience, and people have just been gushing about it. And it's one of the few things that I've worked on where it's like 100% people love it. They love that show. So.
Chad is a big fan of your Sulu voice. Let me just tell you.
That's right.
I realize you're a busy guy, so I have one more quick question. Well, I have a one joke question for you, which is a question we've been asking all of our call-ins. It's like, if you were a bus driver, what would you have on your dashboard?
Oh, wow. What would I have? Let's see. If I were a bus driver, what would I have? I generally speaking, try and keep my dashboard as like
clear as possible.
Clean as possible. There's nothing. I don't want anything to distract me. I will say that I recently contributed to a Kickstarter for a heads-up display. That would be so great to have something like that on my dashboard that, if I needed directions, I wouldn't have to look down. Or, I could play an augmented reality game where I blow up the cars in front of me, whatever,
That's so practical and safe compared to all of the other answers we've received. And I guess... Sorry, go ahead.
There's stuff that I could probably have like a little dancing robot or something like that, or some anime character, but I generally skew towards the more technical solution.
Someone just leaned forward aggressively when you said anime character. Which anime character?
Full Metal Alchemist. I'm a big fan of that series. Let's see, what else? I go back to Cowboy Bebop.
Yay!
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites. And a brief story. We were at a convention in Australia, and we were sitting across from this guy, and he was, we're all guests of the con, and we're riding the bus together. He's like, "Hey, do you want a shot of whiskey?" He's like, "Yeah, I brought some Oban." I'm like, "Great." And then my girlfriend Jenny, who is a huge fan of Cowboy Bebop, she leans over and goes, "Holy shit, that's Steve Blum. Steve Blum's the
You met Spike Spiegel."
Yeah. And then I listened, I was like, "Oh my god, voice." So, but yeah, shout out to him.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think now that we've all had that mutual Cowboy Bebop appreciation bonding moment, I think we're going to let you go because we are down to our last few hours of busing and we have a lot of stuff to get through. Wait, somebody's running onto the stage.
It's Liz.
Hey,
There's a.
I was here the whole time.
All right. Thank you so much to Grant Imahara. Thank you for calling in. We really appreciate it. You're super busy, but this was fantastic. All right.
All right. Bye, Desert Bus. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Go Pratt.
He's so nice.
What a nice man. What an interesting.
Nice young man.
It is so. That was a lot of really interesting stories, though.
Yeah.
Also, I just like how he was like Full Metal Alchemist. We're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I like that one. And then it's like Cowboy Bebop. Wah! I mean, like, raise your hands if you didn't have some kind of weird schoolgirl crush on Spike Spiegel, or if you did. I guess.
I never watched